that one?
I didn't, but I've always thought Spence was something special.
I feel like I've mentioned this before, but when it comes down to Terence Crawford, of course, is that what you're going to watch?
The longer it takes to make that fight, and the longer Crawford's inactive, the easier the fight is, or the more assured I am that I think Spence wins the fight.
Spence wins? Well, you say that because Crawford's inactive, you said?
No, I just think Spence is a better fighter. I think that at that weight, Spence is a better fighter, bigger man, and I think he's younger, and I think Crawford is not sitting on a shelf. He's not doing anything, and that's not good for a fighter.
Why is it that you think
Abel Sanchez is rocking with Errol Spence Jr. to get it done and defeat Terence Crawford if they fight each other? That's what I'll talk about in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you come in, smash the like button, SLC, subscribe, like, and comment for the latest and greatest in boxing. You guys heard the clip at the beginning. Shout out to KO Artist Sports, link in the description. Please give him the viewership and subscribe. Link in the description so you can watch the full interview with Abel Sanchez in its entirety. And Abel Sanchez, former trainer, probably most noted for his work with Gennady Golovkin, in recent years, up until, Golovkin went to DAZN. He weighed in on it, and I'm just going to be paraphrasing since clearly you heard the clip at the beginning as it was played. So Abel Sanchez basically said he's picking Errol Spence, and he listed the reason why. Now, something I've noticed from listening to various different fight predictions from boxing trainers and boxers themselves is a pattern when it's Errol Spence, when the people are picking Errol Spence, which, to be honest, I feel like it's been fewer people, despite Errol Spence having 3 belts and being a guy who's winning and beat champions and disfigured champions. Despite that, I feel like many of the boxing community, boxers, former boxers, trainers, stuff, are rocking with Bud Crawford. So be it. It's a pick 'em fight, whatever. But one thing that I noticed pattern-wise is almost every person that I've seen, and it's been a lot fewer, as I mentioned, that is picking Errol Spence to beat Terence Crawford, there's some almost commonalities of what they're saying. There's distinct common denominators in the fight predictions, despite it being fight predictions from multiple different people. And I find that interesting. Versus when it comes to Terence Crawford, a lot of the stars that are picking Terence Crawford, I find myself a bit more confused when they break it down, like Tim Bradley. Some of the things that Roy Jones Jr. said. And Roy's my favorite fighter, but I'm just talking about the breakdown. Like, for example, just real quick, Roy Jones said that Errol Spence couldn't hurt Mikey Garcia. But I was at that fight ringside, and Mikey definitely was hurt in that fight. And there's a reason why Mikey Garcia fought in pretty much a survival mode. And somebody who had like bouts and troubles of being in love with the sport, I really feel like Errol Spence Jr., when he beat Mikey Garcia, that really sewed it up. Because when was Mikey Garcia, when did he ever look the same really after that? I mean, his best win after that was Jesse Vargas and an exhibition with Eric Morales. So you could really make a strong argument that Errol Spence ruined Mikey Garcia and his trajectory, because Mikey Garcia was a multi-division champion. Myself, I wanted to see Mikey Garcia fight against Lomachenko. I wasn't really checking and begging for him to fight Errol Spence, but when he kept mentioning Errol Spence, so be it. And then the fight was made, the execs and the networks got involved, and they're like, all right, we can make some money with this fight. Slap that in Texas, get 40, 50,000 people, and then the rest is history. So, I ain't mad at it. I'm not mad at it, but that was never my first choice. I wanted to see Lomachenko fight Mikey at that time, and I thought there were even fights at 140 that would have been good for Mikey Garcia, guys like Regis Prograis or something. But Mikey chose what he chose, but it could really be argued to his detriment, because at the end of the day, he chose what he chose, and his whole trajectory changed after the Errol Spence fight, as far as I'm concerned. So that's something you have to consider. But when I'm hearing a lot of the breakdowns, it's not making sense. Like I said, Roy Jones, he said that Mikey was never hurt. That was a part of his breakdown. He said, Terence Crawford, he don't really have to worry about the one punch power because Errol Spence, not one punch. He couldn't hurt Mikey Garcia. He said something to this effect. And I'm like, I didn't see it like that, you know, point blank period. I thought Mikey was definitely hurt and he was in survival mode in the later rounds. And Mikey almost got stopped in rounds like 8 or 9, you know, possibly both of them. Right. So when I'm seeing and hearing the breakdowns that are picking Errol Spence, again, I'm seeing a lot of common denominators, a lot of similarities, like from Hank Lundy. These are all separate people. Hank Lundy, Hammer and Hank Lundy picked Errol Spence. Abel Sanchez picked Errol Spence. And then so did Paulie Malignaggi. And if you listen to just those three, don't take my word for it. I've made videos about all of these different fight predictions. People picking Crawford, people picking Errol, and you'll notice there's a bit more consistency in the various fight predictions from guys like Malignaggi, Abel Sanchez, and Hammer and Hank Lundy. A lot of what they're saying, like you could listen what Lundy said, and it coincides with what Malignaggi was saying. And what Malignaggi is saying, you listen to this new Abel Sanchez prediction, and it all coincides. A lot of them, one of the biggest fears that they have for Crawford is that Errol Spence is just too damaging and he's bigger and he's the naturally bigger person. Like, in more or less words, that's what they've said. You know, they all did their own great job of illustrating and breaking it down, versus a lot of the people that I'm picking Crawford is either, or that I've heard picking Crawford, some of it's like radical, like, oh, Errol's gonna get his ASS kicked, he's gonna get destroyed, he's gonna get murdered, 187, you know. So I don't even that's not even a breakdown to me. You just, you know, that's like cheerleading. So I don't even consider those types of predictions if you're not gonna intelligently break down who wins and why you think they win and all that, and have an actual decent conversation. But the ones where it was a decent conversation, and, you know, the illustrating, like Bradley, I'm just not understanding some of the stuff he's saying. Bradley was saying, I'm picking Terence Crawford, my money's on Terence Crawford, but then he goes into a long list of things that Errol Spence does well and Crawford got to watch out for. So that's not really doing a great job. But almost everybody that I've heard pick Errol Spence, at least the 3 people that I mentioned in this video, Malignaggi, Lundy, and Sanchez, one thing you'll notice, another commonality or common denominator, is they all sound reassured and their breakdowns match up to like the expectation. Whether they're right or wrong, we'll only find out when they fight, but the expectation kind of matches up to the character. Like, if we're talking about, let's say, Street Fighter 2, each character has certain moves. Like Dalsim has the ability to stretch with the long arms. You know, Zangief is powerful, but he's slow. So you can't give Zangief Vega speed or Chun-Li speed or Ken and Ryu speed, because E Honda and Zangief, they don't fight like that. They're strong, but they fight in a different, you know, close quarters or whatever, and they'll knock off your power bar, but they're a lot slower. Each person has different strengths. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. The people that I've seen picking Errol Spence Jr., they're picking him, in my opinion, based on the merit of what we've already seen Errol Spence do. Like, oh, he's big and he's breaking guys down, disfiguring them, his punching power, his body punching, etc. And they're saying stuff like that. Versus a lot of the breakdowns that I've seen from Crawford, it's just in the breaking down of why you're picking Crawford is losing me. Like Bradley saying, oh, he has this crazy footwork. Like, I don't really see that from Crawford. I feel like Crawford really is in there and he's trading and he's banging, and he's been kind of flat-footed, right, at the welterweight campaign where this fight would take place. So you would have to kind of look that up. Now, another thing that Abel Sanchez said that I've been telling you on my channel, make sure you guys subscribe, I'm the best doing it, is the inactivity of Crawford. Nobody else is talking about. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't care if you pick Crawford, I don't care if you pick Spence, but it just got to make sense. That's where my head's at with it. And the people I've seen pick Errol Spence, there's an intelligent argument as to why they're picking him. And what Abel Sanchez talked about, that I talked about as well, is that the bottom line is Terence Crawford is on a layoff. Like, in terms of, he hasn't fought since the Porter fight. Like Errol just fought Ugas in April or whatever, April, May, and got a knockout. Crawford, he's been promoted how he's been promoted. He's now suing his old promoter. He literally fought 2 years in a row, one time at the end of the year, like November, December. The year he fought Kell Brook in 2020, and the following year in 2021, literally fought one time a year. So Abel Sanchez bringing that up, that's what I've been telling you. So, I must be doing something right, because at the end of the day, a lot of my commentary coincides with what the professionals are also saying. And I think that's something to consider. Errol Spence is a couple years younger, and if we're looking at a fight that is so great, such as the case with Spence and Crawford, you got to look at the minute and seemingly minuscule details to see what pushes the person over and pushes someone over the edge. So I can understand that argument of, hey, Crawford fought in 2020 one time at the back half of the year, and he fought in 2021 one time a year. He hasn't had the same level of activity as another healthy fighter. Like, for example, how is it that Errol Spence got in a car wreck and recovered from that, came back and fought Danny Garcia, and then he was supposed to get the Pacquiao fight, got the Pacquiao fight, then pulled out with the eye injury, and then came back from that and a surgery with the detached retina and beat Ugas? How do these two guys have the same amount of fights when one person was otherwise healthy and the other person's been through hell and back from extracurricular things like car accidents and detached retinas and stuff? So it's something that should be factored in, that you got to look at, is like one guy's fought this year and the other guy hasn't. And they basically have about the same amount of fights, but one is bounced back from trials and tribulations, and Crawford's seemingly healthy. He didn't get the red carpet treatment with Top Rank, so he wasn't fighting actively, in the last 2 years of his contract. And Bob Arum threw him under the bus, and it looked like there was attorneys involved and, arguments and that type of thing, that also Bob Arum and Top Rank don't look like they were going to do anything extra to help Crawford out or keep him active. Plus, I think it got to a point where Terence Crawford was, from Bob Arum standards, being overpaid. And Bob Arum threw him under the bus and said Crawford's not generating the type of money, to make this really work and profitable. So that's another reason perhaps why Top Rank, they weren't anxious to give Crawford fights towards the end. He was beefing with the lawyers and, attorneys, and had issues there. And then on top of that, he's costly, and he wasn't, according to Arum, generating the profit. So you have to pay him $4 to $8 million, $10 million, whatever he was getting. And Bob Arum was saying he was losing money every time Crawford fought. So this is another reason. See, PBC has not said that about Errol Spence. They're not saying, oh, Errol Spence is losing us money and all that type of stuff. So there's clearly a reason for PBC stars, including their black stars like Gervonta Davis and Deontay Wilders and Errol Spence's and Charlos. There's clearly a reason to keep them in the loop and keep them active, because the business makes sense. So something to think about. Abel Sanchez, pick who he picked. I'll be talking about this many more ways for me to break this down. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. And I'm out. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxing Ego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with a $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new, interactive, and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.